Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, welcome back to what is a very special episode for a number of reasons. Number one, I'm in my new office. I'll not talk much more about it. Number two, because this is our 6-month anniversary. And number three, because we have a guest. So, I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And I'm Lisa Forte.
And this is Hacking Your Health podcast. So, welcome, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. Apologies for the shit show. I'm just going to get it out of the way. Dave fucked up. He was an hour late.
He has also agreed, just to make sure that everyone is now witness to this, to come ice climbing. So that's going to be the first on sort of demand, on location episode of We Hack Health, where you get to actually watch live Dave ice climbing.
I'm coming too, by the way.
I just want to be perfectly clear that I hate the cold in every retrospect. So, I'm agreeing to this because it is my mess up that I was late. I literally set my my calendar invites for 6 months for Hacking Your Health. We do it every Wednesday. We record every Wednesday. And this is the 6th month one. I must have only set it for 6 months. So I had nothing in my calendar. So I was literally like chilling with my friend, giving him some business advice. And I'm, sitting there, everything's going great. Everything's perfect. I got 2 chicken breasts, some broccoli and some rice, well-balanced meal. And I'm just sitting there, not a care in the world. And I see a podcast invite come up from Ben. I'm like, hey, am I supposed to be on a podcast in literally 1 minute? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh no, I messed up. So I'll take that. It's my fault. And I appreciate Lisa for being super, flexible on this side. It was totally my fault and my bad. I feel really bad about it. So
Good, you should, but we'll leave it in the past. And I can't wait to see you in the cold.
I know nothing about climbing ice at all, so
You'll learn so fast.
Because
I feel like this is like,
okay, so
Dave agrees and then Dave dies. This is how I feel it's gonna be.
You won't die, but it will be an experience.
Okay, good. Well, it looks from the pictures that you sent. I mean, it looks absolutely incredible and amazing out there from where you're at. So I mean, maybe we'll just kick it off with that. Is where were you recently, and what got you into climbing massive mountains and cheating death and everything else and everything else that goes along with that? It looked pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I was in the Dolomites, which is a sort of area sort of just south of the European Alps in Italy. Great for ice climbing. So what I was doing at the time was I was climbing mountains, mainly training and preparing for some really big stuff that I've got coming up in the summer. And it's a really good sort of proving ground, I guess, to kind of check your training, check that you're on target, that your strength is good, your stamina is good, your equipment is good. And so that's what I was essentially doing out there. And it was great fun. And I've been climbing for a long time, to my mother and father's dismay, as I venture into the mountains. It's one of those things, unfortunately, like one of the great mountaineers, John Krakauer, he said that mountaineering is one of these really weird sports where it goes well, everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's the best thing in the world. Look at them on the summit. And it's just amazing for everybody. When it goes badly, you die, and then it becomes really difficult to justify. And I thought that was like the best justification of it ever. Like, yeah, it's sort of brilliant until it's not. I don't really know how else to articulate it.
So just by chance, I watched the 14 Peaks documentary last night on Netflix. Like I was programming, I was doing work, not programming like Dave does, different kind of programming. But I was literally sitting doing work and I clicked onto it, and halfway through it, I was like, oh, I mean, this is kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And I mean, you're exactly right. Like they talk about being, summiting, and then on the way down, there's a guy that's been down there for like a day and a half, and they have to save his life. I'm like, that's one extreme to the other.
Yeah. Yeah, Nim's the guy who that show is about. He's an epic climber. But I think the problem is, it is a really difficult decision for climbers because sometimes you can't save somebody, and if you were going to try it and save their life, the probability is more likely that you will also die. So it puts you in this really difficult moral dilemma. And there's been, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Touching the Void story, where the two climbers, they go into the Andes and one of the climbers gets injured and the other climbing buddy decides he has to cut the rope and let this guy fall because he literally will die if he doesn't. And, you know, the community is quite split on which way you should go, but it's something I haven't had to deal with, thankfully. So at the moment, I'm still very much
hopefully
kind
never,
of in the,
by the way. Hopefully never.
Hopefully never. Yeah, hopefully never. But it is difficult and there's a lot of risk and it's a very dangerous sport. And I think everyone who does it is not under any illusions that it's akin to going down to the gym and lifting weights. We're all aware. So.
Yeah, I guess that leads me to my first question on that, which is, for me, fitness and everything else is big on my mind, right? So lifting and working out and those types of things. Obviously, to do what you're doing there, you have to be in very good shape, peak performance. I mean, you have to be very athletic. You have to, have a lot of muscle as well. I mean, you're lifting yourself up continuously over time. I guess what got you into this early on? Like, what was your kind of starting point for this in your journey? And then two, how do you even prepare for something like this to get to the point to where you're actually like climbing freaking mountains? Like, I mean, I can honestly say I've never climbed a mountain before. It sounds cool, but I can honestly say I've never come close to climbing a mountain before. So like, what gets you to that point, and like, what kind of started this whole journey?
I've been climbing since I was really, really young. My dad was always really keen on going mountaineering and going climbing. So when I was young, it was a way of kind of bonding with him and spending time. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So from a really young age, I just loved being in the mountains. And it's just kind of evolved from there, really. And I've got myself into some difficult situations over time, learned some very hard lessons, and moved on. But I think that the difficulty, with the training for mountaineering, there's two sides of it, really. For a start, I think one thing to realise is that if you're a climber, if you're a mountaineer, if you're like a cyclist, what will happen is you get to the end of your race and then you're done. For mountaineers, like, we focus on like getting to the summit, getting to the top of that mountain, but then you're halfway. So like the moment you're dreaming of is a halfway point in your journey, and you've got all the way down, which is where all the deaths happen and all the problems happen, actually. So it's one of those really weird sports psychologically, because you're kind of like, you're halfway when you celebrate and you make the calls and go, I did it, which is like really weird. So there's a lot of psychological training, but I think one of the really difficult things about climbing is that it's such an endurance sport. Like climbing, I'm doing a big mountain in the Andes in the summer, and that involves a 6 or 7 hour ice climb going up. So that's 7 hours that my body has to like keep going. You can't let go. If you do let go, I mean, you are going to die. That's the reality of the situation.
So I want to just for people over here listening who climb a mountain, like, I have climbed local mountains, but I guess what you're talking about is not like climbing just a regular mountain. And obviously some of the photos that you've shared on on Twitter, like, you're literally climbing up a wall of ice. It's not like just walking up a mountain. So that's obviously what you're talking about, the endurance and the difficulty. Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult because, again, like Dave was saying, he goes in, he lifts weights. There's a lot of, for me, it would be really easy to go and just bulk, just go and like get really, really strong, build loads of muscle. But you can't do that because at altitude, 1 kilo is like 5 kilos. So if I have to be as strong as possible, but as light as possible, because if I'm not light, I'm not fast and I'm not able to get up, but I also have to be strong. And it's this constant, really difficult balance between strength and being light.
So me and Dave are screwed then.
I was about to say, like, it doesn't sound like mountain climbing's in my future anytime soon. So.
That's a lot of times 5 kilos when you're at altitude.
Yeah. And I only plan on getting heavier from here, so it's just going to continuously gradually go worse. I think my time of mountain climbing has passed. But you also do a lot of like caves and things like that too, right? Where you're actually going into caves and like, I mean, I saw you found like old sticks of dynamite and like old artifacts, probably dating back, hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, tell us a little about those experiences too. I mean, is it also in preparation to be able to do these types of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's the similar kind of thing in terms of endurance. You know, you're looking at probably like 7 to 10 hour days. So it's, you know, with a heavy rucksack. So again, it's very similar in that respect. But for me, the UK doesn't have any mountains. So one of the ways I can kind of go and have adventures and work, because it's also a big mental game as well, you know, keeping your calm, keeping your focus, not letting yourself get freaked out, and what we call disco leg, which is where your leg just like twitches like this and you can't stop it because you're freaking out. So kind of keeping all of that together is really important, and it kind of helps me do that. But yeah, mountains is they're my thing. But yeah, I love going down these abandoned mines. It's really funny because I'm not sure how it is in the US, but in the UK, people say to me like, "Oh, are there not handrails? And where are the lights?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's abandoned. Like, no one's putting in handrails."
Yeah, in the U.S., they make it so, idiot proof, I guess is the best way of explaining it, so that you can't fall off of things, because you'd literally have a 2-year-old unsupervised kid jumping off of a cliff here in the States. So, like, it's one of those things where I think, there's definitely no rails there. I mean, when you're going through those mines, I mean, like, tell us some of your stories of like the coolest things you found, or like some of your coolest experiences there, because I've seen the pictures. They're incredibly amazing down there. I mean, first of all, like, I think I would freak out in those super tiny spaces. Like where you're like, basically, I'm not claustrophobic, but I'm pretty close to it. I think, like, I'd be okay with it for a certain period of time, but like long extended periods of being like, kind of trapped and going through tiny holes and things like that, I'd probably start to freak out. So tell us a little about the experiences there.
Your body language as you're saying that says you're very close to
yeah. I'm already nervous. Hey, I gotta go, guys. I'm like, my anxiety's getting me now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So a lot of the mines that I've been going down have been, they basically got shut in like the 1900s, early 1900s. So they're really, really old. And they've been abandoned basically since then. So there's all this stuff like old clothing, like we found like sticks of dynamite, we found lots of equipment, things like that from there, and lots of writing from the miners used to write on the walls. So there's lots of like historical references and political references that are on there that predate me substantially, that are just so cool to sort of see and bear witness to, I suppose. So I love that side of it. They are incredibly dangerous places. So before anyone listens to this and gets super pumped and inspired to go and explore abandoned mines, please, I'm not recommending that you do this. They are I was just
Googling abandoned mines in Ohio recently. It's just, I was planning on hitting there after this podcast, but I guess not now. So.
Yeah, no, don't. Oh, and if you do, it wasn't my idea, so don't blame me. Yeah, so they're really good. They're really good fun. There's lots of like technical kind of rope work as well, so it helps you kind of practice your safety and backing things up and using harnesses and ropes and securing things, which is kind of like a puzzle, which I really enjoy. I did have an accident though. I did have an accident down a mine. I hope my mum never listens to this podcast because she doesn't know about this. Fingers crossed. And it happened just over the Christmas period, and I basically fell and whacked myself. I was on a rope, I fell down, hit into this slate wall, fractured my ribs, fractured my hand, like had blood coming down my face. At the time I was like, I remember saying to the person I was with, "Why is there so much water in here?" And it's like, "Oh no, it's not water."
Oh
so
my gosh.
That was a bit of an experience. And I think being down underground when that happens was sort of, it was a bit of an experience actually, because it kind of felt like I was buried a little bit. But I think that's part of the challenge though, right? Like, it's about keeping your head game right and keeping my focus and being like, you're freaking out, but there's no need to freak out. Like, we've got this, we can get out of it.
I mean, so much of it you're selling it to me, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. And then you say something like that, like, I'm like, no, that
this is why I'm not in sales.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's like I feel like everything that I'm doing in like the lifting and like cardio side, I was so proud of that, and then I'm like, Then this is like way up there. It's like, like, hey,
I did
like
almost
climbing
die
mountains,
in the
like
gym.
I did almost die in the gym. Like I have safety bars where if I bench too much, it protects me and everything else. And I'm complaining about, I didn't PR. And then here's Lisa with like used sticks of dynamite and breaking all of her bones in her body. So.
Right. I want to ask, do you feel like you're talking about the mental and the puzzles and stuff like that. Do you think, or do you feel like that helps you in like work life and other aspects of life? Because obviously Dave and I spoke before about how we feel like what we do in the gym and with training nutrition sort of filters into everything else. So do you find that that's sort of a transferable skill?
Definitely, because I think it's one of these things, and it's the same in climbing. You get it in caving, you get it in exploring mines. All of these things, there will always be a moment where you start freaking out, and you feel that anxiety. And for me, it's like, what I am now able to do is recognize like the precursors to that. So I recognize like, oh, my hands feel a little bit sweaty. And I'm starting to feel a little bit hot. That's a sign I'm starting to get anxious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. I'm going to let myself calm down, and then I'm going to carry on. And I think that really helps as well in life and with work, because obviously you always come across challenges. And when you can kind of recognize those precursors in yourself, that you're having some sort of emotional reaction to a stimulus, you can then control it. And I think, climbing and caving, it's all about self-control. If you have no sort of mental self-control whatsoever, it's really not the sport for you. But, it is all about practicing that self-control. And it's the same, I suppose, with lifting, right? Like, you're disciplined to keep going when you actually want to sit on the couch and all these sorts of things. It's more a mental game in many ways, I think, all of the fitness kind of avenues.
Yeah, I think you can see that too in like folks that do biking, for example, like on a daily basis, right, where they're just exploring new areas and they're challenging themselves, so finding new things to do and to kind of, beat themselves in many cases, right? It's that continual progress and challenge of things. Scuba divers, another example, going to different dive sites and things like that. I'm not comparing scuba diving to mountain climbing, but but it can be.
Reverse.
Yeah.
What is the opposite of climbing mountains?
What is the opposite of climbing mountains? Is scuba diving. But I think that challenge in yourself is consistent from a mindset perspective, regardless of what sport or thing that you're trying to overcome or hurdle. Question on my end too. First of all, how do you find the time to balance your security career and this as well? Because I often get asked that question, because I think, if you look at my Twitter stream, everybody would probably say that all I do is lift all day and I don't do any work, which,
I saw someone tweet today being like, I don't know why this fitness guy's on the news talking about security.
Yeah, I was on CNN this morning and someone said, why do they have a fitness guy talking about security? Obviously a joke, but but where do you find the time? And I think, it's the same struggle that I run into. It's, obviously making the time, but love to hear how you balance and compartmentalize your schedule to be obviously as awesome as you are in security, but also as awesome as you are on mountain climbing and escaping death. So
yeah, it is difficult, but I think it's all about priorities. So for example, this is a really weird thing, but I don't own a TV. I don't have a TV in my house, and it's about prioritizing different things. So it's like, I'll get up a little bit early in the morning. I'll do some weights, some fingerboard training, which is obviously for grip strength, in case people don't realize. It's like a board and you kind of hold in different ways and it strengthens your hand and your grip strength for climbing.
So what you're saying is you could probably kill somebody with your grip?
Yeah, and if not, just so that everyone can see, I have also got this, which I just sit with in my house, I go open the door, get pizza with, it's fine.
You never know, like, you could be climbing a mountain and you find like this, like the Raj Al Ghul, if the whole Batman stuff, where you find like the whole hidden, like, massive assassin place that you need to fight off a bunch of assassins.
You never know.
Like, that could totally happen.
Yeah,
totally happen.
I mean, it probably won't, but yeah, why not? We'll roll with it.
That's right. You might find Batman. So
yeah, so I think it is difficult, but it's about priorities really. And I think for me, climbing and the goals and the mountains that I want to hit in the next few years are going to require some dedication, and so that time can't be spent sitting watching trash on TV as much as I'd like to, which I kind of think is the other thing. I don't know, you guys have probably had this as well. People kind of say to me, oh my God, you're so motivated. I can't believe how motivated you are. I wish I was motivated like you. But what you guys don't see is that I'm usually like sat on the couch thinking, oh, I really can't be bothered. I would just want to eat some pizza and do nothing. I have that feeling. The difference is I recognize in myself, like, if I get my ass up and I go and pick up a kettlebell and I start the workout, I'll be fine. It's literally that getting off the couch and starting, and then I'm cool. So I think it's not that I'm super motivated at all. I want to eat pizza too, but, you know.
I think that's it. It just comes down to discipline on that, and we both have spoke about it quite a lot, and I get it all the time with, you know, whether it's on social media or whether it's with clients, and they say that I don't have the motivation. It's not the motivation that carries you through, and I guess, you know, from your perspective, is you need to do those things because of what's at stake whenever you're actually, you know, on the mountain or actually climbing. So I think it's maybe slightly different that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think, you know, you look at the comparisons in mindset, you know, same exact thing. I have two rules, you know, that I always talk about for myself. One is counting calories. You know, the second one is, you know, I will go to the gym, and if I break a sweat, you know, and I still don't want to go, then I'll leave. Right. And it's just that motivation of getting my butt off of the couch or doing what I'm doing. And I feel that all the time. It's like, oh, I just, you know, I don't want to go and lift, but I have to go and lift because, like, it's one of those things I have to do. And I go and I do. And as soon as I start lifting, you know, I PR and I feel great and I feel wonderful, like I've accomplished something. But it's that mindset of overcoming kind of like that fight in ourselves of wanting to be lazy or wanting to sit there. And you know, you mentioned the whole concept around not having a TV. Like, I don't watch TV at all, except unless it's the Cavs, like my basketball team. And, you know, I'll have a couple of series that I'll just like binge watch. One like this weekend, I binge watched The Witcher. And I, you know, Henry Cavill is like the exact body type that I want to get to. So I'm like, and it's gonna sound really, I mean, but it doesn't sound bad. I'm like every time like he's in a suit, I'm like, that guy looks really effing good. I want to be as, you know, like as big as him, you know. So, you know, it's you know, like it's more of a bromance with him as I'm watching the show than anything else. But I don't watch TV too much in many cases either. And, you know, it's funny because like I recently went through a deload week, and it's one of those ones where I'm not spending as much time in the gym. And Ben had asked me, you know, like, well, what did you do with all your spare time? And it's interesting because, you know, if we don't have anything in our schedule, our life will consume our time. And so like nothing was different. It's just I had more meetings, or, you know, I did this or did that. Whereas, you know, you have to dedicate time for you to be able to go out and do these types of things. And then the rest of your life kind of comes around, you know, that as well. So you need your own time to do your own things, and you need to block that off, and it has to be important for you to go and do it. And obviously you do the same thing where you're blocking time off for yourself, and then, you know, everything else kind of falls in line with that. You know, would you say that's fairly similar to your model as well?
Yeah, and I think you've also got to recognize that you're making excuses. And I think this is really difficult to do, because so often I speak to friends and they say, oh, you know, my knee's a bit sore, so I'm not going to the gym because my knee's sore. And I'm like, okay, well, you could go do upper body and abs, like your knee's sore, but you can do, you know, others. Oh no, it's really painful when I move anything. Okay. And I think it's like, you have to really acknowledge, like, is this real, or am I just making an excuse so I can sit my ass on the couch? And if it's the latter, then you have to be like, no, come on, like, we're better than this. Yeah. We can do this, you know. And I think that's quite difficult, because it's much easier just to buy into your own bullshit.
Yeah, it's a lot of mental conversations, like conversations in your head, like literally arguing with yourself. Should I do it? Should I not do it? I'm going to have to fucking go and do it anyway.
Do I have a bit of a sore throat? I think I might.
Dave's like, it's too cold out there, I'm not going.
Yeah, you don't get that excuse in mountaineering.
Yeah, if it's too cold, I'm not doing it. Like I've been trying to work up to cold showers, and it's just not happening. I'm not doing it. Like I understand all the benefits. Like, I'm just not doing it. Like I will do this ice thing because I was late, but other than that, nothing else cold is. I told Ben, I'm like, listen, I already have it in my will that when I die, I have a heated coffin, so that, you know, I can stay warm, you know, as I'm dead as well. So, not to get all morbid here, but I'm a
We've talked a lot about death. We have talked a lot about death.
I had a climbing day in the Dolomites, one of the last climbing days that we did, and it was so cold. It was like minus 20 Celsius, which I don't know what it is Fahrenheit, but it's really cold. And
I think that's like minus
my nostrils froze. My nostrils froze, my eyelashes froze, my eyebrows froze, my hair froze. Everything was frozen on my face. And it was like the most unpleasant experience. But Yeah.
That is -4 in Fahrenheit, which is absolutely cold in every retrospect. We get those. So I'm in Ohio, and we get a lot of snowstorms and things like that, but it rarely drops below the negative market. But sometimes, like there was one year it was like -20 or -15.
How did you cope?
Fahrenheit. I stayed inside, and had the heater on.
All your
six
clothes
layers. I had 6 layers of clothes on.
Started burning his own belongings just to increase the ambient temperature.
I'm staying warm. You have to worry about me, but I did not go outside in any retrospect. But I think that's key. Like, I mean, you've obviously found a passion of what you enjoy and love doing in life. And one thing we talk about on the podcast is not just the physical aspects of things, of being able, so if you get your nutrition locked in, you're doing what you're doing, or you're doing what we're doing around, weightlifting and that type of stuff, you'll see results, obviously, body type wise and endurance and how your health is overall. But at least, break down some of the, at least from your side, like other benefits you've had, like mental, capabilities, how you feel as an individual. Because I think one thing that's important with like these types of lifestyles is that, it's not just a physical appearance. It's confidence. It's how you feel, overall body health. But one thing in InfoSec that I think that we really lose track on is the whole culture is around, I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning, hacking something, sitting on, my butt for 15 hours straight, and I was able to get this awesome exploit. And we struggle with obesity. I've struggled with obesity my entire life. All of these things I think culminate our industry. To me, having a sound body also creates that sound mind. So, at least, from your perspective, what have you seen as far as, when you're out there, you're in nature, you're overcoming hurdles, you're, doing things that are risky in nature, but you're doing it calculated because you've done a lot of training involved with that. Like, what's the experience you've had with how it's changed you, in a positive or negative manner?
I think in terms of from the sort of being fit and training for these mountains and getting progressively stronger and fitter, you just have more energy. I think that's the biggest payoff, actually, because when I've had a period where I've maybe been injured or something and I haven't been doing a lot, I find that I'm like I'm tired, I'm a bit irritable, whereas when I'm training really hard and I'm progressing, I have tons more energy to do all sorts of things, and I sort of think, I'm going to walk to the shop instead of drive or whatever. So I think that's the biggest like lifestyle benefit for me. But I think when I'm on the mountains, it's kind of, it's sort of a bit like, and this is going to sound really messed up, but it's sort of a bit like really high risk meditation, because it's kind of like you're so focused the entire time on everything around you. Because when you're climbing, when you're in the mountains, if you're an alpinist, you've got danger of avalanche, which is catastrophic. Like, people don't survive avalanches by and large. It's like your worst nightmare. You've got rockfall potentially, you've got the weather that can change, you've got the altitude, you could be tired, you could get hypothermia. There's all these risks continuously evolving around you, and you're monitoring all of these factors at once. And actually, I get down and I'm just like, I haven't thought about InfoSec drama or what happened in this breach or where my career's going or if I look pretty or whatever, because the one thing I love about the mountains is it's like an equal playing ground, right? So the mountains don't care if you're rich or poor or black or transgender or beautiful or ugly or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're all judged by the exact same yardstick, that whether or not you're fit enough to do it, and that's it. And I think that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah,
that's
think
awesome.
The main point that I can sort of relate to, not in a mountain sense, but I do a lot of I did a lot of cold sea swimming, and whenever you're in the sea and you're just dealing with the cold, you don't have the opportunity to think about anything else. It's just, oh my God, this is the coldest fucking thing I've ever been in my life, and how am I going to get out of it? So it sort of gives you that actual disconnect, because even I find if I'm at the gym or I'm training or whatever else, like, obviously it's still part of my job because of what I do, but at the same time I can still nip in and reply to an email or whatever. I'm not actually disconnected or stepped away from work. So having something that can actually just, that you don't have the opportunity to think about anything else except for that situation that you're right in at that moment in time.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, I guess it's kind of like therapy, really dangerous meditation and therapy.
I'm trying to kind of relate here, but I don't do anything nearly as risky as, as
yes,
that.
But you are going ice climbing, so.
I'm gonna go ice climb. Can
Maybe
I start
you'll
looking
love
like?
it.
Do they have like
This will be the next thing that you go all in on. I can see it.
Yeah.
Do they have like a little kids like rock climbing or ice climbing like hill that I can like start off in, so that like I'm not doing like like a big mountain, right? I'm just like it's a small one where if I fall I don't die.
I mean, don't fall. Just don't fall is the rule of ice climbing.
I mean, I don't want to fall, but what if I do fall? Like anyways. So like I don't, I'm nowhere near any of that stuff, but I do feel like, when I get to my gym, it's kind of like my sanctuary, my meditation, right? I throw some music on, I go into my routine, and it's just me with the metal, right? It's me, pushing myself and pushing my boundaries and seeing how far I can take myself, before I start to buckle or I start to fail or I start to, hit new numbers that I never have before, right? And it's me versus me, but there's nothing around me. There's no, like you had mentioned, there's no, distractions. There's no, issues. There's no problems. I'm not dealing with, work. I'm not dealing with life. I'm dealing with what's in front of me right now. And that's picking up heavy things and putting them back down again, which is about as easy as it can get from like a caveman perspective, so that's good for me. I can only think of one thing at a time.
And then go and cook some meat on the fire at the back after.
And then I cook some meat on the fire. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Smoke some meats at the same time, it's going. So, I think for me, to relate in some capacity is that when I get done with an accomplishment like that, again, not in comparison to climbing mountains, but it is absolutely one of those things that is self-rewarding for me, where I feel like I've accomplished something that, was a huge hurdle or feat for me. And that is continuously building up to more challenging things that I could do later on. Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is also bravery, actually, because whether it's mountains or whether it's, cold water swimming or whether it's lifting weights, I think there's like,
I know you notice she made lifting weights last, by the way, Ben. So like,
I got, important.
Okay.
I think it's like, there's this very, very real risk of failure, right? Like, we'll keep it to weightlifting because that's what most people will be familiar with. There's a very, very high risk that you will not be able to set out and achieve the goal that you have, right? It will take longer. And that's scary for a lot of people. And so what the reaction tends to be is, well, I'm just not going to try because there's a risk I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to lose weight. I'm not going to be able to put on the muscle. I'm not going to be able to look like this. So instead of doing that and taking that risk and working towards it, however long it takes, I'm just going to not do it and throw in the towel. And I think that's what you start to learn, that actually you can go, oh, I didn't hit that weight, or I didn't do this many pull-ups, or whatever it is. That's okay. I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to try again, and then again, and then again.
Yeah, I think that's actually an interesting perspective that I don't really think I've put the pieces together before. Like, almost if you think about, like, failure is part of the process. Like, you have to fail to progress. Like, you have to do it. So I guess it sort of acclimatizes you in a way to actual failure, and then that can sort of transfer into other things. So that's quite an interesting perspective on it. Obviously, us failing at picking something off the ground is much safer than you failing at what you do.
I don't want to be doing too much failing.
How do you, moving on to a different subject here on the nutrition side of the house, how do you prepare nutrition-wise for those long climbs? Like, just like give us an idea of like how many calories you eat on a regular basis to prepare for something like this, because I'd have to imagine like, it's like 10,000 calories if you're climbing for 7 hours. You need the fuel to be able to do it. So the nutrition part of this is equally as important, I would say, as the physical training aspects, because your body has to be in prime shape and condition to be able to handle so much energy expenditure. What does a life and day in Lisa look like as far as your eating plans, regiments, and preparing for something as big as climbing mountains?
So I tend to keep my weight relatively stable during most of my training. On the kind of lead up to a big climb, really you're looking at putting on about 10 kilos of fat. So I don't know what that is in
22 pounds.
22 pounds. So yeah, you're looking at putting on about 10 kilos of fat beforehand, because you're going to lose almost all of that and quite a lot of muscle as well. So one of my goals hopefully for next year, fingers crossed with COVID, is to do Everest.
So I was going to ask that, like, everything that we hear, like people like obviously dying at, but people like a massive feat is Mount Everest. You're planning on doing Mount Everest, huh?
Yes. That's the game plan.
That's crazy.
Nice.
And there, you know, so for example, summit day, you burn about 35,000 calories on summit day. So you're burning like
Holy
an
shit.
enormous amount of calories. You
Crazy.
can't possibly put that into your body. Your body is basically in crisis because there's no oxygen in the air that you're breathing. It's basic. And this is not just on Everest. This is in the Andes. This is in other high altitude mountains as well. So what it does is it uses all your fat, and then it will start eating your muscle as well for energy, basically anything it can get.
That's another reason to put Dave off. Don't want anything eating the muscle.
No,
I'm going to run a sales class. Anyone who wants tips. So yeah, it's really important that you show up fat is kind of the rule. Like you want to show up a little bit fat, which is really difficult because for me, it takes, like, if you're training really hard, it's actually really difficult to put on a load of fat. It's harder than you think if you're training really, really hard. And then you also don't really want to be fat. So you have to walk around, like, getting progressively fatter, knowing that you're going to this mountain, this is going to keep you alive, but it's really difficult. So it's, nutrition-wise, it's quite complex. And generally, at altitude, you can't digest food anymore. Your body basically stops digesting food because it's oxygen deprived. It's in a highly hypoxic state. And so it can't digest food. So generally on really high altitude peaks, you don't really eat an awful lot because it kind of just sits in your stomach. So you have to carry all that with you. So it's really complicated in terms of what you eat. But when I was in the Dolomites recently, you know, I was there for 2 weeks and I lost almost 4 kilos and I was eating massive Italian meals. And I thought, this is why this is the best sport ever. I can do all of it. I can eat all of this food and I can still lose weight. This is like, amazing.
Yeah, I actually noticed in that documentary last night, like, to me, he didn't look like an athlete, but it obviously makes sense in terms of going in and having that sort of energy source and that energy supply. So it's cool to know. I mean, 35,000 calories is a shitload of calories to burn.
It's like the ultimate Everest weight loss camp.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't want to like recommend anybody who's struggling with weight loss to climb Everest, but I mean, it makes sense.
So I think what we think from this podcast is that we're going to be opening up a new series of weight loss programs, that diet instead of keto. It's the Mount Everest weight loss plan where you have to climb Mount Everest to lose the weight. So.
High risk weight loss.
How long? High risk weight loss, but look at the benefits. You come out.
Effective.
Yeah. You come out 70 pounds lighter from climbing Mount Everest, but. How long of a climb is it to like go to is it like a peak of Mount Everest? I take it you're getting to like the highest peak there. Is that how it works? So like what's the time frame of that? Have you done any research on that yet?
It's about 40 to 50 days in total.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
really?
It's a long time.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's
that's
a long
crazy.
Time. It's a long time because
40
essentially,
to 50 days.
With a lot of these mountains, you see, they're a long period of time because you can't just go straight up. Because if you did that, you'd die. You wouldn't make it. Like the altitude would kill you. Your lungs would flood with fluid. Your brain would swell. It would be game over. So what you have to do is essentially go up, come back down, go up a bit further, come back down, go up a bit further, come back down. And that's how you acclimatize to the lack of oxygen in the air. And then you go eventually all the way up to the summit and back down. So it takes about 40, 50 days depending on weather.
Is there cell reception up there?
I think there's cell reception on the summit now, but it is provided by the Chinese, so I don't know. From a security perspective, it puts me in a bit of a dilemma there.
I really want to see my YouTube short clips, but at the end of the day, is it really worth it? So, no, but
what the hell? I'm using TikTok anyway. I'll just do it.
Yeah. We're already in there. So you're planning on doing this? What is it, next year?
Yeah, next year. So the climbing season for Everest is about May time. So each mountain will have its own climbing season. It's when the winds drop a little bit lower and you can get to the summit of those mountains. But I'm going, hopefully, again, all being well with COVID, to the Andes in the summer. I'm going to bag some big peaks there and test out some different techniques and things and see how I'm doing.
So is your preparation for going to something like Mount Everest or the Andes, is it different than anything you've been doing now? Is it like a whole new level that you're preparing for? Or is this something that you feel confident that, you know, you've prepared enough for? Or is this, hey, I need to raise myself to 5 notches ahead before I get to this point to where I'm actually going and doing it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that I've come back from the Dolomites. I'm having kind of a week of kind of deloading just to give my body a little bit of time. And then I'll need to start ramping up the training from then for the Andes. Because again, because the Alps is about 3 to 4,000 meters. Those are the sort of peaks that we're talking about there. And again, I'm really sorry, I don't know the feet conversion of that.
I don't know that one. Can't help you.
And so, and the Andes in comparison are about 6,000. So there's quite a big difference. And then obviously Everest is almost 9,000. So because of the altitude, it makes a really big difference. It's obviously going to be longer days, colder, multiple days, back-to-back days on the mountain. Hopefully camping in tents and not having to sleep in sleeping bags outside, because that's really unpleasant. We won't make you do that unless you miss another one, and then yes.
Yeah, if you're late again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out like how long can I have the battery charged, heat warming gloves and everything working while I'm going and doing all of this, and warm insulated jackets, and like I'll have an extra like 50 pounds in lithium batteries just to keep me warm as I'm going and doing this. But
I can't. We should just let Dave like pack his own bag. Like he brings the shit that he feels like he needs to bring,
and he has to carry it. He will
yeah.
very quickly regret those batteries when he has to carry them up a mountain, I can assure you.
So is Mount Everest like the is that like the pinnacle? Is that the top you can go? Is there anything bigger than Everest, or is there anything that you're thinking like what's next for Lisa? I guess I hate to say like after Mount Everest, because like to me that seems like oh shit, that's like way up there. Like is there anything else that could beat that? Like what's after for you, and where do you like see yourself going in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
So I think obviously it is the highest mountain in the world, but it's by no means the most challenging, most deadly, most complicated to climb. So from a mountaineering perspective, one of the pinnacle mountains is K2, which is like also known as the Savage Mountain. And that's like the hardest mountain basically in the world.
Does that sound good?
No, it doesn't sound good. It's a little bit of it has a bit of a rap sheet for killing people, especially women. So that's a bit complicated. But that's sort of the pinnacle from a mountaineering community, climbing community sort of thing. But there's loads of other adventures that I want to have as well. I want to go to the South Pole. I want to get there eventually. Want to go to Yosemite and do some big wall climbing on El Cap and things like that. And just, I think it's more for me, less about kind of seeing this as like a career sort of thing and progressing it like I would my career, and more about just having really awesome adventures and living my life and seeing things and doing things. Whether I win or fail, it doesn't really matter. I'm getting to go and experience parts of the world and different activities instead of watching them on a TV screen.
Yeah, I think it's obviously things that not a high percentage of the world's population get to do or choose to do. So you're doing things that, there's only a small group of people have ever done, I guess.
Yeah, but that's what's frustrating when I talk to my friends about it, and they sort of say, oh, you're so brave, I could never do that. And you sort of think, but you can, it's just a process. Like, if you want to go and have these adventures, you can go have these adventures. You've just got to start way back and build up your experience and build up your confidence, and you will be doing those adventures as well. It's all about desire. You can't just decide
to go to Mount Everest tomorrow.
No, that would probably kill you.
Dang it! All right, I'm canceling my flight that I had made to Mount Everest. All right, here. So
flights to Mount Everest.
Well, I think it's very similar on the weightlifting side of the house too. And I'll get that all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're lifting X or whatever. I could never do that. No, it's I started off. Ben, I remember, you sent me a video.
Videos I can send you.
You have some epic videos of me when I first started lifting, where I think I had 245s on, and I was deadlifting 85, like 135, and I was like struggling with 135, and now I'm doing 505 plus or whatever, and people are like, I can't believe you could do that. Well, it's just repetition, it's practice, it's training, it's knocking down your form, making sure your form is perfect, making sure you aren't injuring yourself, and then gradually and progressively building yourself up over time. And it's that repetition thing. It's the I think you mentioned earlier, I could sit on the couch and grab a pizza, or I can go out and make myself better.
Yeah.
And it's that trying to make yourself better every single day and better than yesterday mentality that, once you get into that, it's almost like I hate to use the word addiction, but it's almost like it almost is like an obsession, I guess is a better way of saying it, because, you become obsessed with bettering yourself, which is a good thing to be obsessed about, across anything else. Because it's that personal challenge with yourself and that personal challenge with what you do. One of the things I hear a lot of people struggle with a lot is well, I'll go and I'll lift once, or I'll go and I'll do something once, but then it's like a fight for myself to go out and do it again. Would you say that, as you've seen a lot of success with what you've done, with mountain climbing, with rock climbing, with, cave, is the proper term cave spelunking or splunking? Is it?
So in Europe, we would call it caving. But
caving.
Think,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I don't, so caving, but the successes you've had with that, would you say that it's less of a challenge for you in the mindset wise to go and do those now because you're more programmed to be able to do that, or is it still as hard as it was when you first started day one to go and do it?
No, I think it's easier to go and do it, but you will always have a wall because there is no best, there is no top of the game. I guess it's like, like with weightlifting, there's, you can keep going and keep going and keep going. So you'll always hit that challenging wall where you're like, oh, I just can't do this. I don't know why I'm not getting this move, or why I'm not strong enough to do this thing. Right, I need to go back and I need to build some extra muscle this way and then try again. And you'll always have that. The difference is, I think, that mentally you see that more as like a really attractive, almost irresistible challenge, as opposed to, okay, well, I'm just going to quit. And I think that's the real difference and shift in my mentality that I've seen over the last few years, that when I have a challenge now, I'm like, right, come on, Lisa, you're going to get up early, you're going to work on this, we're going to have this route or this move or this whatever. And before, perhaps I would be like, maybe I just do nothing. And that's the difference, right? And that's how you learn, but you've got to have that bravery to kind of be like, this is going to suck for a little bit. And you know what, if you're at the beginning of this fitness journey, it's going to suck a lot for a few weeks. It's really going to suck. But then you will see results.
Yeah, I think that's a big mindset thing. Like, and we all spoke about mindset and about how that comes first and my sort of thought process behind that. But that is literally just, the conversations that you have with yourself and sort of the progress of, okay, right, I don't really want to do this, but I know the benefits and what I'll get if I actually do go and do it. Mm-hmm. And I think you're talking about challenge and you're talking about wanting to better yourself. That again it's almost like a specific type of person that wants so. Some people just don't want to challenge themselves. They don't want to do it, and that's fine. But I guess the main reason that we had the conversation about bringing you on is, finding something that it doesn't necessarily need to be the gym. It also doesn't necessarily need to be ice climbing or mountaineering.
Come on, I mean, everyone loves an ice climb.
But it's about finding something that you enjoy, that you can challenge yourself with, and then progress to whatever it is that you're trying to achieve.
One of the famous sayings is, I can't remember which mountaineer said it, but they said that the best mountaineers are the ones with the shortest memories, meaning that, like, you forget the suffering and you forget the pain that you went through to do the mountain, and you're like, I'm never doing this again. Like, I'm never putting myself through this. This is horrible. And then you come down, you're like, now which mountain am I going to do? And you just completely forget the suffering that you just went through for the last week or whatever.
It's amazing how our minds, when it comes to accomplishments and feats, outweighs anything else that we potentially could have went through, and how we view those. Like, like the Marine Corps, I look back at my days in the Marine Corps and I'm like, when I was in the Marines, I'm like, man, I hate this. I hate doing this. I hate going to war. I hate, the running, all this other stuff. But I look back and I'm like, man, I was in the Marines. That was awesome. I'd totally do that again, right? But it's amazing how our minds play tricks on us with that, and what we can do. One thing I wanted to mention too is, I think some of the frustrations you hit on this really well with you said when you talk to your friends of like, oh my gosh, I can never do this because of, it's too crazy. But I think, what most people struggle with is like they see, hey, Lisa's about to climb Mount Everest, and they're like, my gap is so far between this level and this level, where do I even start? Mm-hmm. So if you had some tips for people on where to start from, and I'm not just saying in the mountain climbing side of the house, but just in general, what would be some of your top tips for people getting into this to keep them motivated, nutrition, anything around those areas that were beneficial for you early on, that continue to be beneficial for you today, that can help them get started in a beginner level type of journey to progress to maybe someday, I wouldn't say climbing Mount Everest, but someday doing something epic and awesome for themselves, right? Yeah,
I mean, like, people have climbed Mount Everest who have no legs. They've got prosthetic legs and they've made it up. So there's been an 80-something-year-old bloke who did it. So I think it's anything is possible. I think the thing is, if you're interested in getting involved in things that are kind of outdoorsy, the first best starting place is just hiking. Get a pack on your back and go hiking, go walking, get out into nature, start building those leg muscles, the tendons and the ligaments that are really important to strengthen in your legs. I think generally speaking, my advice to a lot of friends is just get out and start moving. That's the key thing. It doesn't need to be this big structured, I'm going to go to the gym and get a personal trainer and do this whole thing with a nutritionist and it's all scary. Just make little changes that you can maintain. So one of the things I say to my sister, who's always, my sister, again, I really hope she doesn't listen to this, but she always says she hates exercise.
Or your mom.
Or my mom. Basically any of my family. She said that she hates exercise because she hates sweating because it ruins her makeup. And she completely is the opposite to me, like polar opposite. And but she really wants to lose weight. And I was sort of saying, like, if you do these fad, real crazy, dramatic diets, it's not going to work. If you suddenly decide you're going to go to the gym 7 days a week, it's not going to work. I guarantee you within a week, you'll stop that. So just make smaller changes that you can live with and then build upon that. Because the problem I think we have in society now is that we see it as, well, I've got to go from where I am to perfection in the shortest period of time possible. And actually, it's just about building a better foundation, improving yourself little by little, and before long you've built a habit that you can maintain.
I can't emphasize enough what you just said there is like literally spot on perfect to, you know, what we typically see. I think that the fad diets that you see, you know, people are like, well, hey, you know, it's going to allow me to drop 20 pounds, but, you know, really quickly. But guess what? You're going to gain that 20 pounds and then some back as soon as you're off of that diet. It's not a sustainable lifestyle. And I think what you're talking about here is lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
It's making incremental or small changes that allow you to maintain a healthy lifestyle for yourself, for your mind, for your body, you know, as you go along. And those, you know, those small changes, you know, start to incorporate big changes down the road towards, you know, your ability to get there. And, you know, yeah, you can, you know, just eat, you know, kale and that's it for the rest of your life. And you're going to be miserable and unhappy and you're going to look horrible and you're going to feel horrible and it's not going to be a great thing. But, you know, the going out and starting small is just maybe getting some steps in, right? You know, maybe just tracking your calories and seeing what you're eating, you know, to understand, hey, this is probably within reason of what I need to be eating on a regular basis. Those small changes can have, you know, monumental impacts down the road. And, you know, I think, you know, when I show my progress and everything and people see a picture of, you know, Big Dave at 317 pounds and you see now Big Dave again, but different, you know, you know, they're like, they automatically assume that this is like a 1-year transformation where, you know, it's been, you know, several years of fighting nonstop to get to this point, but making small changes along the way to make me successful. And then those build out my big habits, right? Habits come out of those that are good for me to be able to manage and to be able to sustain this long term. And then, you know, from there, I'm making continual improvements. I'm continuing, you know, refining how I eat better, you know, refining how I do my lifts, getting heavier with my lifts, building more muscle, I just incorporated, you know, bicycling now into my routine. So adding new things that continuously address or, you know, help me kind of grow my journey. So I think what you hit on there is that, listen, this isn't going to be a quick fix, you know, but starting from somewhere and moving your way upward is the only way that this is accomplishable. There's not going to be a diet pill. There isn't going to be, you know, a miraculous diet like paleo or keto or anything like that that's going to do it for you. I'm not saying that, you know, there aren't benefits of intermittent fasting, or if you want to try keto and you already have a structured program, you're just doing that to, you know, do something different from a, you know, glucose resistance perspective or something like that. You know, those are different than trying to do it from a diet side, but, you know, making those good decisions that allow you to make something sustainable. Whereas, you know, if you're making a New Year's resolution saying I'm going to go to the gym 7 times, you know, a week, you're not going to hold yourself up to that. You know, there's no way that's going to be possible. So small incremental steps, I can't emphasize enough.
And I think people always think as well that there's some magic solution that isn't diet and exercise. And we know it's calories in, calories out. And it's basically maths.
It is.
It's so simple. And if you're not moving and you're stuffing your face full of pizza, you're not going to lose weight. And, you know, you have to just work out the maths between what you're putting in your mouth and what you're doing. And then that will equal change. And people don't want to hear that because people go, I hate exercise, so I don't want to exercise. So how can I do this without doing the one thing that will actually work?
I think, well, firstly, all this talk about pizza means definitely.
I know I keep mentioning pizza, but without pineapple. Just going to put that out there. That is not accepted by Italians.
I'm a pineapple
at
fan.
all.
I like pineapple.
What?
I like
No.
pineapple. Pineapple on pizza is good.
Too often you drop bombshells like this. The podcast of shit I do not know about you, and I'm like really questioning our friendship at this point.
Listen, I'm not going to say like pizza and ham isn't my favorite pizza, but if there's pizza and ham there, I'm probably going to go grab a pizza and ham. It's not bad, or a pineapple and ham. Sorry, I'm more of like a cheese and pepperoni type of guy. But if there's pineapple and ham, I'm going to go for pineapple and ham. It's just
Italy may ban you. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's the one reason that you're going to get out of not having the ice cream. Anyway, what I was trying to say is that, what you're talking about there about people who say that they don't like exercise. I think that's sort of why we wanted to have a conversation with you. Is it doesn't necessarily need to be going to the gym. Mm-hmm. There's so many reasons, obviously, that people don't like the gym, and I fully get it. Like,
I don't like the gym. Everything else. I don't like the gym at all. So I get it.
You just haven't went to the right gym. I'm slightly offended. Not my joking. No, but what I wanted to touch on is, number one, obviously, it doesn't need to be the gym. It can just be some sort of output. But the other thing is, I think that people don't like it because of how they feel whenever they're doing it, but they're never going to not feel like that if they don't continue to do it. So we've spoken before about like what change in ourselves has allowed us to do. So, from Dave's perspective, coming from being overweight to where he is now, we can do a lot more things that he wouldn't have been able to do when he was overweight. And the opposite for me, like when I was skinny, to what I can do now. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to do then that I can do now. So it's like that almost entry into change, what I can actually unlock to what you can achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I have kidney disease. I manage that now just through diet and exercise, no drugs at all, and it's completely stable.
It's awesome.
And that's possible for a lot of things as well. It sounds like a really horrible thing to do, but actually when you check your diet and you've got your good exercise regime and your body's just working how it ought to work, things just feel better and everything operates in a more efficient way. And there are people who have been like on the cusp of diabetes, who have literally just gone walking and hiking and then suddenly are no longer at risk of diabetes. And that's, if nothing else motivates you, the longevity of your life. And I say this as a mountain climber, so I appreciate the irony in this.
I was about to say, like, okay, got it. I'm climbing Mount Everest, but I'm talking about the longevity of my life. Got it.
Yeah, okay. I won't say that. I'll let one of you deliver those lines, but that's the sentiment.
It's true, and we talk about it quite a lot, but I mean, I don't often put my life at risk, so.
Yeah, I think, for me, one of the biggest things that was I can actually like look back and say, like, what changed in my life to where I wanted to live more of a longer lifestyle or longevity lifestyle. And it was when I was meeting with the doctor and I had a heart disease and I had to go get heart surgery to correct my heart disease. And the doctor looks at me and he says, listen, you should not be having this issue at 25 years old. He's like, it's because of your weight. He's like, if you want to be there for your wife and for your kids, you're going to need to make a substantial change in what you're doing or else you're not going to be there. And at that point in time, like, I'm like, wait, my doctor's telling me I'm not going to be there for my kids. Like, I'm not going to live to be there for my kids. Like, that's the most selfish thing that I could possibly ever imagine myself doing, is not taking care of myself to not be there for my kids. So at that point in time, I got the heart surgery. Luckily, it was successful. It corrected the issue that I was having. But honestly, I probably didn't need to have the heart surgery had I been in the type of shape that I have been now. And it probably would have automatically corrected itself as things went along. So, it's amazing what our bodies, the more I learn about our bodies, the more incredible things that it can do. It's just, from our immune system to, how our nervous system works to how we adapt to climate and oxygen deprivation. Our bodies are this amazing, miraculous thing. And, we take it for granted, especially in a society that just, has ease of access to food. Like, we didn't have that 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. We were starving for food and our bodies adapted to that. And now we have access to unlimited food and cheap food and food that are high in calorie deficit density that are designed to make us to want to eat more. And, all of these things that we have to really navigate through if we want to be there longer for our family, for our kids, for ourselves, and live a great life. And the biggest thing for me the two most important things for me is one, obviously being there for my family long term so that I can sustain for them, provide for them. And, and it's been amazing because I coach my kids, basketball team now. I'm actively involved in their sports. I'm in sports myself, things that I never would have done before, had I been 317 pounds. But the second piece of it is, I also want to feel great as I get older. So, I'm about to hit 40. I'm hitting the big 40 this year. So I'll be 40 years old in July. And
is that when we're going to go? Is that what we're doing for your 40th? We'll go ice climbing.
No, we're doing Everest for his 40th. Remember?
yeah, Everest is my 40th. Yeah. I already booked the flights. We're good. So we'll be. I just got to get one of those like little claw things, right? And that's all I need is to be good. So, Lisa's like, you're gonna die. The thing is, as I get older, I also want to still feel great. I don't want to, accept that. Hey, now that I'm older, I have to feel like shit, right? And that's the truth is, you take care of yourself, you take care of your body, your mind will be, at ease, and so will your body. And those are all the things that I want to do as I get older, be there for my kids and be able to stay active and be there, long term for my family, but also for myself.
Yeah, I think age is a really interesting one because I think, on some level, none of us are going to be able to do the Tour de France. We're all far too old to compete in something as competitive as that, right? The average age is 22. We're past that. However, generally speaking, in life, you're not. I mean, I would encourage anyone who's listening to this, go look up a guy called Alex Honnold. He's an American rock climber, really famous American rock climber.
Writing it down right now.
His mum learned how to climb when she was 50 years old, never climbed before, and then climbed El Capitan when she was 60. So
that's crazy.
Anything is possible in these situations. You can do any of these amazing things. And there's nothing, age isn't holding you back. Sure, you're not going to do the Tour de France or be an Olympic 100-meter athlete, but below that kind of high-level elite sport level, you can do whatever you want. You want to go diving, go try diving. You want to go caving, do that. You want to go paragliding, go do that. But these are things you've just got to go out and try and see if you like them, see if you enjoy them, get some passion for life. And then you'll realize that those passions require you to be fit and require you to be healthy. And that will drive you. And for me, I'm not really that motivated by losing weight. When I'm a bit fat, I kind of just sort of think, oh, well, this is me now. That's kind of it. But when I'm like, I want to go and do this thing, but I need to be like this to do that, I'm really driven. And so if you're really struggling with weight, go find a hobby that requires you to be fit and find that passion and channel it into that.
One of my buddies, I met with him recently for a cup of coffee, and he was just asking for some career advice, and he's thinking about doing a career shift in IT. And we got in this discussion of the whole fitness thing, and he's like, I am an extreme rollerblader. And I'm like, what? Like people still rollerblade? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, and we rollerblade for days. Like they have backpacks and they have tents and they literally rollerblade 1,000 miles on rollerblades. And that's a thing. So, but I'm like, hey, good for you. Like you're seeing, I can see it, scenery and stuff like that. I mean, are you doing little twirls and tricks and stuff? I have no idea, but that's his thing. And he's got a group of rollerbladers, and I guess there's a whole bunch of groups of rollerbladers that literally do this type of stuff. And there's rollerblading, tournaments and whatever. But, hey, whatever you enjoy doing that is living that active lifestyle is awesome, right? Yeah. Whether that's, mountain climbing to one extreme or that's, scuba diving to the other, anything in between there is going to be something that's going to benefit you for the best and that you enjoy doing.
Yeah. And it gets you away from your computer screen and your phone. And that is so important as well.
If you just live in I digress in all this, I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but if you just live in your computer, I think your sense of reality is completely skewed to one thing or another, or just the distractions or negativity. You lose sight of what's important, and that's living life, right? Mm-hmm. We have to get out there and see nature and see this world and, see the beauty that there is out there, to want to better ourselves and have that thing. Because, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, that's where we came from, right? That's where we as humans evolved from, and we evolved from the earth. We evolved from living on lakes. We evolved from, or oceans. We evolved from all these different areas. It's just natural for us to want to be out there and to experience that type of stuff. And, this whole stuff with augmented reality and virtual reality and the metaverse and all this other stuff, I really do fear that, it's going to detach us from reality even more, because, you know, we're not experiencing those types of things that we would in life. And I think that's a component of our happiness. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feel 1,000 times better when I go on a hike in nature and I have no distractions around other than nature myself and birds chirping and seeing a squirrel coming across. You know, those types of things just, you know, really feel good to me. And I come out there refreshed, relaxed, and everything else that was there just kind of goes away.
And you'll feel exactly the same after ice climbing, but colder.
The same, but colder and less squirrels.
And much less squirrels.
If they're squirrels, they're dead. They're dead.
Which puts a bit of a dark spin on the whole experience, I feel.
Too much conversation about death.
I'm getting cold just thinking about this, by the way. I'm going to go get my coat on really quick here, but just talking about it.
I think that wraps us up. Anybody want to add anything?
Make sure that everyone, you know, writes about how excited they are to see Dave's ice climbing. Make sure that you all tweet that, because that's really important.
Well, we will make it happen. I'll fly out or do wherever. No problem there. As long as, again, it's got to be like on the scale of like 1 to 10, it's got to be like a 1 category, you know, mountain. All right, that's you know, a mountain like sounds scary. Anyways,
have you actually never climbed a mountain?
No, I've never climbed a mountain.
I'm not talking about like thousands of feet, but you've never climbed a mountain.
I mean, like, we had this like really big hill in Hawaii when I was stationed at, that was like but it was like a big hill. It wasn't a mountain. Like, you know, like when I think of mountain, I'm thinking like, you know, this big, you know, heavy mountain, you know? No, I mean, like, really steep hills. Yeah, I'm pretty good at really steep hills, but you know, no, I listen, Lisa, I really appreciate you hopping on and you know, chatting with us and providing your experiences. You know, I think, you know, what's awesome to hear about all of this is that regardless of what you're into, whether it's, you know, weight training, whether it's biking, whether it's running, whether it's mountain climbing, whatever it ends up being, you know, you're doing it for you and for what makes you happy. And it may seem like a strain at first as you start to, you know, get into this journey, but, you know, it completely transmorphs and changes you as you go along. And I think by you providing that perspective really is, you know, should help out others, you know, getting into this journey too, and starting up in this different area. So I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us about all that. Yeah,
it was good. It was good fun. And then you can remember this when I've died in the Andes in a few weeks' time.
Please
be safe.
Yes,
please be safe. Please be safe.
Always safe-ish.
Safe-ish. Please be safe, as safe-ish as you can be. So,
yeah, thanks for joining us, and apologies again for Dave being late, and no doubt we'll chat soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks.
You're welcome.